There is this medicine that the Chinese make. It's called Ejiao. It's allegedly supposed to help with anti-aging and also some health issues. It's supposed to fix that, even though there's no scientific backing to this medicine. It is very popular in China, and it became even more popular after a movie. I believe it's a series. A series included this medicine in their plot line, and all of a sudden the demand went high. And these companies could not keep up with the demand because they have limited amount of resources. You might ask what that resource is. That resource they use to make this medicine is donkey skin. That's one of the things that they use to make this medicine. And as you know, donkeys are limited. It's not like there are unlimited amount of donkeys in the world. And specifically in China, since they're using them to make this medicine, they are getting less and less. Their population is reducing significantly. So once the companies and makers of this medicine realized that they don't have enough donkeys to supply their people with this anti-aging medicine called Ejiao, they started looking elsewhere. And that elsewhere, as you might have already guessed, is Africa, because Africa has the highest population of donkeys. Specifically, Ethiopia, I believe, is #1 in the world. So they started looking at us and wanting to take our donkeys. So when that happened, not everyone is on board. And not everyone will sell their donkeys, right? And donkeys, usually in a lot of African countries, they're not really used as medicine like the Chinese, but they're used for labor. Farmers use them to cultivate their land. Farmers use them to transport their items. In some rural areas, they even use them as a way of transport, to transport patients from one place to the other, from the house to the hospital. And because of that, donkeys are extremely important to these people because their survival depend on their donkeys. And since these Chinese companies are not finding the donkeys as easily as they would want to, now they start paying people to get it illegally, exercising a horrible way to get to this donkeys because they need their skin. And a few years back we covered the story, but I think this is good news. The African Union has officially banned the brutal donkey skin trade. And it is exactly that. They call it brutal for a reason, because these donkeys are skinned in just the most horrifying way, and they are stolen from their owners mostly because they are not able to meet the demand. The supply is not there, so what they do is go and snatch it from the farmers that need it, snatch it from the owners that are using that donkey for their survival.
Oscar and Presley are two very lucky donkeys. They were being smuggled and destined for slaughter, but authorities intercepted the truck they were in and saved them from a cruel death.
They're stubborn, but they're very forgiving and they're very loving. If you're having a bad day, the best thing to do is cuddle a donkey.
Oscar and Presley now spend their days relaxing in this field in South Africa. But not all donkeys in this part of the world are so fortunate. It all started a few years ago when, unable to farm the 5 million donkeys needed annually to make a traditional medicine known as Ejiao, China started looking for the animals elsewhere, says Simon Pope, who works at British charity The Donkey Sanctuary.
China had to effectively go out to the world to try and find supply to meet this massive demand for Ejiao. And that meant going to places where donkeys were quite common, and that, inevitably that's Africa, where for centuries they've been used as a beast of burden.
While some in Africa were willing to sell their animals, others were not, so local criminal gangs began to steal donkeys. Experts say the donkeys are often killed in the most brutal way. usually knocked out with a hammer, and are sometimes even still alive when they are skinned. The donkey sanctuary estimates some 1.5 million of these animals are being stolen each year for their skins. But Francis Nkosi, a groom who looks after rescued donkeys, says these animals are often an important part of life for many rural Africans.
If people get sick, sometimes we don't have a car, we don't have a transport, you can use the donkeys to transport some people to the hospital.
Grace Delange, an inspector with the National Council of Societies for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals in South Africa, says stolen donkeys are now being smuggled into the tiny landlocked kingdom of Lesotho.
The animal welfare charities have welcomed an Africa-wide ban on the controversial donkey skin trade. This ban is going to make it illegal to unalive donkeys for their skin across the continent. Obviously, this is not going to stop this illegal traders from unaliving donkeys and taking their skin in order to make some money, but at least it's really nice to see the African Union putting in the ban, and this is a whole continent ban, not just one specific country. It's good to see African Union making some effort to answer the questions and requests that they have been receiving, not just from activists, but also the poor people of Africa that depend on these donkeys. It's like taking away their livelihood when they're doing this just because someone in China want to use an anti-aging cream so they can look younger. How ridiculous is this? This is unfair, and we're very happy to see that at least they're putting on a ban, but we also are aware that it's going to continue to happen illegally and behind the scenes. But as long as we check these industries, as long as we work together, even you see after someone steals that donkey and unalives it and tries to send it to China, there are so many chains, so many people that they have to go through before it reaches China. So if someone stops it at the airport, that's one thing that we have done right. That means even though we can't get that donkey back, justice will be served, and that Chinese partner that is waiting for that donkey in China is now going to receive it, and they're going to face a loss. This is going to discourage people from exercising this illegally. If we increase the punishment, if we arrest people when we see it happening, and we follow up with leads and see who exactly requested that order, it's going to become better and better. People do it illegally because they know even if they're found, not a lot is going to happen to them, and they're used to that. So we need to change that narrative. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this. I am Wongel Zelalem.